Good morning and welcome to Today in LA. I'm Bill Rice Jr. He's Forrest Lee. Not with us this morning is Mike Amos, who's in our thoughts and prayers. Mike had an operation yesterday in Birmingham at UAB Hospital. I think he's going to be fine. And Michael is up there with the children and his mom and his father, but he told me last night that he will be calling in, so he'll be joining us shortly. Good morning, Forrest.
Good morning, Bill. How we doing?
We're doing all right.
Yeah.
Lots happening in the sports world, lots happening in the world, period. I guess the big headline, though, for us is that Donald Trump has been impeached for the second time. Impeached about, 5 or 6 days before he was leaving office. I completely did not get it, but he was. The historic record will show he was impeached. The Senate is not even convened. You know, impeachment just means you've been indicted. The House has brought charges. You've got to be tried. You're innocent until proven guilty, as we all know from a couple months ago. So the Senate would have to do a trial and vote to convict. Well, the Senate's not even in session. Plus, how could you do a trial in 5 days anyway? But there you go. And Forrest was just telling me about some school closings in our area, or I guess they're closings. The students are going to be learning virtually at many school systems in our area, not permanently, but for a couple of weeks. You want to go over some of those for us?
Yes, sir. I read on the Dothan Eagle, this morning, that Zion Chapel High School grades 7 through 12 will go virtual until January the 20th. Pike County schools are virtual until the 29th of January and will resume around the 1st of February. They'll take a look at it the last week of January. And Troy City schools will continue to go until noon on Friday, and they will be virtual until the 1st of February. That's what I have. And some other local news that was verified by the Dothan Eagle. Coach Brad Mccoy is stepping down as athletic director and head football coach, but he will remain through the year in the field of biology, teaching biology. And I did a little bit of history on that. He was hired. Mike Dean left after Hugh Fountain was here. Mike Dean was hired. When Mike Dean left, Jamie DeBose was temporarily hired. He was hired, never coached a game. He left after the spring and went to Central Phoenix City.
Yeah, and now he's at a big school in Georgia.
That's
he
correct.
Won a couple of state championships in Phoenix City. We wish Coach the best and thank him for all the hard work he did.
Right.
I'm sure he will be fine. And now they'll start looking for the next coach, which will be a big deal.
Well, he was here for 7 years, and before that, he was at Daleville, was very successful at Daleville. He was the offensive coordinator at Northview at one time, and he was on the Prattville staff for about 6 years when they won 2 state championships under Bill Clark. So he's got some connections. He's a good fella, and but there will be a change for Troy City Schools. Looking for a football coach, and I did a little bit of a history lesson this morning. I woke up about 4:30 and I was spry as a rabbit. So just looking in high school football, Charles Henderson has a record of 517 wins, 429 losses, 25 ties, with a 55% winning percentage.
In the history of Charles Henderson High School.
One state championship.
And I was on that team.
Goshen, 329 wins, 361 losses, 9 ties, 48% winning percentage.
Okay.
Pike County, Brundage, 480 wins, 372 losses, 18 ties, 56% winning percentage with 5 state championships.
5 state championships.
Yeah. Pike Liberal Arts, 293 wins, 249 losses, 7 ties, with a 54% winning percentage. They've won 3 state championships. Now, I got this information. There's a website called the Alabama High School Football History, You
Yeah.
can type in that, and it brings you up all these updated records. In Crenshaw County,
All right.
okay, Highland Home, 387 wins, 443 losses, 10 ties, winning percentage of 47%. Luverne, 598 wins, 358 losses, 29 ties, 63%
The best so far, Luverne.
They've won 2 state championships.
Okay.
Brantley, let's say Brantley for last. All right, Crenshaw Christian Academy, 322 wins, 232 losses, 2 ties, 58% winning percentage.
Good.
And they've won 4
All right.
state championships at Crenshaw Christian Academy there in Luverne, right across from the hospital.
Yep.
And Brantley High School, or Brantley School, 578 wins, 332 losses, 15 ties, a 64% winning percentage, 4 state titles. So when you add up Crenshaw County, they've won a total of 10 state titles, and Pike County schools have won 9.
That's some great research
But,
there for us. I love
yeah.
that. And I wonder how far that went back.
Back in the 20s and 30s, they tried to do the research as far back as they could.
So, like when you said Charles Henderson, did
Troy-
that
Troy, yeah.
include Troy High School
Yes.
before that?
Yes.
When my dad played and Mike played and everybody in the 50s and Bobby Marlowe played and all those people.
It will list the past coaches. Guess who was the head coach for 1 year for Troy High School?
Well, I don't know who.
Chase
Riddle? I'll be darned.
Sure. And I don't know what year. I could look it up, but that's pretty neat. And I've told this story before, but Coach Riddle, years ago, of course, my wife's from Manchester, Georgia, and her mother, Miss Shirley Cruz Fowler, bought me a book on the autobiography or the biography of Irk Russell.
Yeah, and he's mentioned
The great defensive coordinator at Georgia, and then he was a head coach at Georgia Southern.
Founded the Georgia Southern football program.
And won multiple national championships in that division. Well, he was a superstar athlete in Birmingham. Chase Riddle was a superstar high school athlete in the Columbus area. Mm-hmm. Back then, the big schools crossed over state lines and played each other, and they still do. Mm-hmm. Well, they were concerned, according to Russell, how they were going to stop the All-American Chase Riddle. Well, during warm-ups, Coach Riddle was fielding a punt and collided with a player on the other team and was knocked out of the game and never played. And it's in his book. Mm-hmm. And Inslee won 10-7 over whatever high school Coach Riddle went to.
That reminds me of when I was a sophomore on that state championship team. We played a great schedule of traditional rivals in Troy. Including one of them was Elba, that was very good back then. And Elba had a running back named Don Horsted that was a hoss, buddy. I mean, he averaged about 10 yards a carry. We ended up signing a scholarship with Alabama. And they had a real good team. Came to Troy. Memorial Stadium was almost sold out. I bet it was 90% full. For the whole town of Elba was on one side. The whole town of Troy was on the other side. And Don Horsted was hurt. He hurt his ankle, but he was coming back, and we thought he was going to play. He ran the ball one time, and he got about 15 yards. He almost broke it for a touchdown, and then he re-injured that ankle. And I think Charles Henderson won 14-7, but Destiny might have played a hand in that game.
Well, his granddaughter, Samantha Johnson, was at the middle school.
That's Chase Riddle's.
Yeah, Coach Riddle's granddaughter, Samantha, was a student at the middle school. So I showed her the book. I said, take this home to your granddaddy. So she did, and she brought it back. But I went later to Coach Riddle's residence and pulled it out and showed it to him. I said, Coach, he said, I don't remember that. I said, Coach, you were knocked out. That's the reason you don't remember it.
Well,
but they beat them. Coach Russell's team beat them 10-7.
Well, some of these stories you see in books, maybe they're true, maybe they're not. But I've always heard everybody Coach Riddle was around, he made quite he had that presence almost like Coach Bryant. I mean, you just knew that you were around. a special individual. And my dad, said he was the coach at Troy High for 1 year. I didn't know that, but I thought he was 5-10 years older than my dad, but I think he was an assistant coach or a student coach at Troy High School when Dad and Tom Murphy and all that, Buddy Brantley and all that crowd were in high school.
Well, you know, I took a class at Troy University, Theory and Technique of Football under Charlie Bradshaw, but I took a Theory and Technique of Baseball, coaching baseball under Chase Riddle.
God, can you believe Charlie Bradshaw and Chase Riddle were teaching classes?
It was during the off season, but you know, to be around two dynamic personalities in the roads that they traveled, I would love to spend a day fishing with those guys, just talking general stuff, not so much football and baseball, but just that their demeanor to me was kind of like Bear Bryant, their personality. I mean, the way they looked, and it's like it was all business. And
those Coach Riddle's teams, they can play with anybody. I mean, I used to keep up with the Alabama college players that made it to the minors or the big leagues, and the Birmingham News every Sunday would have updates on how these players were doing in the minors.
That had connections with Alabama.
Yeah, you know, University of Alabama, Auburn, Troy University, junior colleges, high school if they never went to college. And it just seemed to me that in the Riddle era, there were always more Troy University guys that were in the pros than Alabama and Auburn guys that were in the pros. So this was a Division II program.
Well, some high school rankings that are fresh out for this week. The Alabama High School Athletic Association in basketball for girls in 5A, coming in at number 3, Charles Henderson High School with a record of 7-2. And in 2A at number 4, George W. Long girls have a record of 8-0. In the boys action in 3A at number 8, Pike County with a record of 2-1, and their season is temporarily suspended because of COVID.
That's the defending state champions.
That is
Pike
correct.
County Bulldogs.
And in 1A at number 5, Brantley is undefeated at this time with a record of 7-0. In the Alabama Independent School Association, in number 2, Pike Liberal Arts has a record of 10-2. They lost the first game of the year in overtime, I believe, to not Montgomery. It's outside Macon East, and then they lost to Tuscaloosa Academy, who's number 1, and they're like 14 or 15-0. They lost a close game to them up there. So
I wonder how many of those football players play basketball. Probably a lot of them.
I expect so. The other day when they defeated a team out of Montgomery, I saw where Coach Cross's son scored like 23 or 25 points, and he's like a 9th or 10th grader, and he is phenomenal.
Well, let's talk
with
about
his
Pike
basic
Liberal Arts.
skills.
Pike Liberal Arts wins 2 state championships in baseball back-to-back. They would have won 3, but their season gets canceled last year. Well, we just say it's almost certain they would have won 3. Then they win a state championship in football, and it looks like they got a chance to win a state championship in basketball. I mean, how many schools have run the table back-to-back baseball, football, and basketball? Can't be many.
I'm going to research that for tomorrow. Basketball, football, baseball.
I wrote a little column for Facebook about the Alabama football season, and I called it just random observations. And one of the bullet points I put in there, everybody knows that Alabama had 3 players in the final 5 of the Heisman voting. The Heisman winner, the 3rd place winner, and the 5th place winner. That was Devontae, Mac Jones, and Najee Harris. Let me ask you this. If they would, instead of voting back in mid-December after the conference championship games, if they'd waited till the day after the national championship game, don't you think there's a very real possibility it would have been Devontae number 1, Mac Jones number 2, Najee Harris number 3?
Najee is unbelievable.
I mean, if Alabama could have had the top 3 vote getters in the Heisman Trophy on the same offense. I mean, think about that for a while. Okay.
Here we go.
Good morning. You're on Today in L.A.
Hey, morning. How are y'all?
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike. First of all, give us an update on your father. Tell us what you can.
Well, I mean, let's just say it's tough to have any kind of surgery during COVID. Of course, UAB is every bed available is coming to go to COVID patients, which is, understandable. And, Dad had surgery yesterday at 8:30. I believe he was finished around noon, and then was put in recovery. And we thought he was going to go straight into a room because we had set it up through my sister, Camille, who works at UAB, to immediately have him in a room. But apparently the doctor who performed the surgery wanted him to be in ICU. That's just regulation after a surgery, and wanted him to be on the same floor. And unfortunately that didn't happen. So he went back to recovery, where he stayed, as far as I know, as we speak, is still in recovery. So that's just telling you, there's no beds available, and I think, it's a situation where he's pretty upset about that. But as far as I know, everything is fine. I think it's just a lot of mental anguish, and he wasn't able to see anybody in our family last night until 10:30, 11 o'clock, and my sister, Camille, was able to see him and actually called me, and I was able to talk to him over the phone. And let's just say it had been a long day for Big Mike, and he told me that he could write a book about this day. So I don't know if it'd be a good book the way he talks, but needless to say, he's hopefully doing better since I talked to him. But I think it had been a long day. You don't see any family members after a major surgery until about 10 hours later. It was rough on him.
Gosh, and I talked to your mom and said, that his surgery was at 8:30, but they were up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah, they had to be there at 5. So they were up at 4. But
so you think about that day.
It was a long day, and luckily Mom was staying next door at the hotel that's attached to the UAB Medical Center, and my twin sister was able to stay with Dad as long as she could last night. But I'll find out more hopefully here in a little while.
Well, bless his heart. I mean, it sounds like it was an odyssey, and it makes me think too of your dad and your family, but really all the people that have had to have procedures and be hospitalized over the last 8 or 9 months. I just that's always a challenging event you go through. But when the hospital's full, and then when the family cannot even see their loved ones, it's just sad to think about.
Any time frame on when he might be able to come home? Have they talked?
We don't know yet. I don't know if things are getting pushed back because of, he's got a few other procedures he's going to have. I think one later today and then another one tomorrow. So I don't know. I got to find out all that as well. Yeah. So it's
okay.
Not being put in a room. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's going to delay being discharged and this and that. So I'm sure there's going to be plenty of stories about this for a long, long time on the show when he gets back.
Mm.
Well, he's, most people know, Mike has Parkinson's, and this surgery is designed to hopefully eliminate or reduce some of the tremors that you have when you have Parkinson's. So.
Yeah, that's right. The shaking. Dad uncontrollably shakes, and I mean, I don't know. Dad's probably told many people what kind of surgery this was. But this was brain surgery. So, needless to say, anytime you're dealing with the brain, it's scary because Dad is 73 years old. So, but it's something that we hope will be very beneficial down the road and a big confidence booster. I mean, I can't imagine, looking down, every day of your life and seeing your arm uncontrollably shake and you can't do anything about it. So we have talked to numerous people that have had the surgery. The doctors, felt like it was a surgery that would help Dad. And Michael J. Fox, the former actor, gave UAB $20 million years ago in Parkinson's research. So, UAB is state of the art when it comes to this surgery, and they do it, a lot and help people a lot. So we're hoping that'll be the case for Dad.
What a blessing with technology that has advanced in the past 20 years and there's no telling how far it will advance in the next 10.
Well, if you
It's
can,
unbelievable.
I can't. I'm like Michael. I can't imagine you just having those uncontrollable tremors, and then if you can just reduce them by 50%, that changes your life. Yeah, I know Steve Barris. He wouldn't mind saying this is a good friend and classmate of mine. He had this operation years ago, and he said it was life changing. He was getting ready to go into a wheelchair. And he's my age, and had it, and just returned him, I don't know, almost to like he used to be, but just a stark difference in the quality of his life.
Mike, when y'all travel to Birmingham, do y'all come through Troy? How do y'all get to Birmingham?
We go actually to Freeport to Phoenix Springs, and then we go through Florala. And when we go through Florala, we hit Andalusia. And, you know, Andalusia has Highway 55 that is 4-lane that takes you all the way to the interstate. So you come out of Georgiana. And then,
Okay.
you know, once you hit the interstate, well, pretty much once you hit Andalusia, you're gone because
Yeah.
it's 4 lanes the whole way.
Yeah.
On 55, and then of course, you know, once you hit 65, you're straight to Mountain Brook where I am right now.
What's the buzz in Birmingham about the Alabama Crimson Tide? Or have you been too concerned?
I listened a little bit yesterday. I was in and out on phone calls and stuff, but yeah, I mean, everybody's excited. Everybody's trying to figure out who's coming back. I'm hearing right now Brian Robinson, the running back, is going to come back. Christopher Allen, the defensive end, is coming back. Josh Jobe, the really good cornerback's coming back. So that's 3 guys that are going to come back. You know, it could possibly be more. Apparently, from what I've heard, you got to make a decision by January the 18th. So that's, you know, coming up in 4 days.
That's right around the corner.
I would love to see Brian Robinson have 1 year where he was the man and have a good year because he'd been real patient and you know I always thought he had the talent to be a featured back, and boy, he sure looked good with the carries he got in the national championship game.
Have they finalized the Bill O'Brien hire yet?
Not. I read a few things yesterday before we left, and I don't think it's finalized yet.
And
I mean, he's a good offensive coach. I mean, he won at Penn State and was pretty good with the Texans before you know, the last couple of years.
we were talking earlier about Nick Saban winning the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year award, sponsored by the American Heart Association, and that started in 1986. And Joe Paterno was the first winner. Coach Saban won it at LSU, and now he's won it for the 2nd time at Alabama.
Yay!
And Auburn's had 4 coaches to win it.
Wow.
Gene Chizik, Terry Bowden, Tommy Tuberville, and Gus Malzahn.
Well,
They've all won the.
Bear Bryant.
Bill O'Brien won it when he was at Penn State.
So Alabama could have a head coach that's won the Bear Bryant Award twice, and an assistant coach who's won it once on the same staff.
Dabo has won it the most times, 3 times. This is since 1986, but Gene Stallings also won it. Coach
Beebe Stallings.
So where Tennessee's losing a big offensive lineman, he's entering the transfer portal. Wayne Morris, 6'5", 320 from Loganville, Georgia. And I researched it. His other choices before he signed at Tennessee was LSU, Florida State, Alabama, and Arkansas. So who knows where.
You know, it barely got a mention 2.5 years ago, talking about this transfer portal. A guy named Landon Dickerson from Florida State was a grad transfer from Florida State to Alabama. And, you know, there was maybe a 2-paragraph story. And what I read and remembered was that, you know, he was a pretty good prospect, but he was always injured. He never really got to play because he was battling injuries. But he graduated in 3 years, and it turned out he had 2 years he could play at Alabama. And darn if he doesn't become one of the best offensive linemen Alabama's had in recent years, and the Remington Trophy Award winner, and a team captain. So these transfers are
Jake Coker,
there you go,
graduate transfer
from Florida State.
How about that story? I mean, there's all kind of wonderful stories in college football. And
well, you look at Auburn. One Cam Newton starts at Florida, transfers to a junior college, then comes to Auburn. Wilson, the quarterback for the Seattle, North Carolina State, was great. And then he goes to Wisconsin, and he's great.
He almost went to Auburn.
Quarterback for Georgia.
He won a Rose Bowl in Wisconsin.
Yeah, the quarterback for Georgia now is Georgia's all fired up about next year because they got a transfer quarterback from USC. Seems like just about everybody just about has a transfer quarterback.
Well, Michael, it's official that Brad McCoy is resigning as head coach and athletic director. He's going to stay on as the biology teacher through the end of the year. So Charles Henderson will be looking for a new head coach. And
yeah, that's something I'd heard that was possibly going to happen. I know Brad, and best of luck to Brad in his future. I think this is something that we all expected, and I guess we need to start talking about potential hires at Charles Henderson High School and potential candidates. That's a school that, of course, in my family is extremely important. Bill's family and Coach Lee, coached at the middle school for several years, and part of the Troy City Schools for several years. So I guess we need to start thinking about who they might possibly hire.
Arguably the most important hire in the whole school system. A town goes like its schools go, and really a school goes like its sports programs go, and extracurricular programs. Good luck with the hire. It's important.
Well, certainly. Let's start with basketball. Doug Branson and Dinesha Jones. Basketball is in wonderful shape.
Mm-hmm.
Softball is new. Got a new coach. Baseball has a new coach. That's a big challenge coming up. That's it's not going to happen overnight. But as it relates to football, number one, with COVID and some restrictions that have taken place. Two, with people transferring.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be whoever the hire is going to have to be a heck of a recruiter and motivator. It's like you got to start from day one, and you're at the low of the totem pole, and you've got to just build it from ground up, doing it the right way and hiring the right people. And
then you got to get interest in the program. I mean,
coaches.
I know I didn't go to as many games as I should, but the ones I did go to, attendance is dramatically down from when I was going to games regularly. That concerns me. The apathy or indifference, and it even goes. It's the whole town, and it's also the student body. It used to be there were several sections of the bleachers that were the students. Just packed in there cheering. You don't see that anymore.
And part of that is you got to go to gofan.com and buy your ticket. Have your cell phone, put it on your cell phone, go up to the gate and show them where you purchased your ticket. As opposed to...
Is that just during the COVID times? Or?
Well, I don't know if it's going to change or not.
I mean, part of the new
I don't know
normal.
if it's going to change or not, but it's like if it doesn't change on a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock, I say, hey, I want to go to the ball game.
Walk up and get a ticket.
Well, it may be locked out. You may not be able to do it, but it's a hassle to do that rather than pull out $7. Here's my money.
Right.
Can I please come in the game?
Touch a ticket and take a chance.
And it's not just. I mean, it's a lot of high schools that are doing that by protocol because of COVID. And if you
got to be honest, you got to look and across the road or off 231 at what Tyler Lars is doing, and Mario White winning a state championship in his first year as a head coach, and all the transfers that decided to go and play for him and win that state championship. I mean, any coach taking that Charles Henderson job is going to be looking at that as well. How do I get these kids to stay? How do maybe I bring some kids over, that left? I mean, there's all kinds of things that this new coach is going to have to think about before he takes this job.
Well, then to attract the good coach, you need to have a good quarterback club, boosters, support. You need some Mike Amos type guy that's going to welcome the coach and say, hey, coach, we're behind you and we're going to help you out. And
That does not exist.
I know it. I mean, I can think of some people that used to be really, really involved, and they're not anymore.
Well, let's talk about the big elephant in the room.
Okay.
Part of it might be, and it's kind of, the rumors have quieted down, will Troy City schools be absorbed into Pike County schools? Not that there would be one big school, but that would be another factor in all of this. I don't have that answer, but that has been talked within the past year or so.
That they merge or
If they
consolidate.
merge, and then who's going to make that call as to who comes in? Now, I'm going to say this.
Say it. Be careful, though.
You
Remember what Mike says, is we don't want to get too
Well,
controversial.
I know. I feel like but it's going to be a long road to hoe. I'll just say that.
He decided, he edited it himself right there on the spot. Probably a wise move. I need to do that more often.
That's something that a new coach would have to know before he took the job as well. We're going to say Troy City School. We're going to go to Pike County Schools. You're going to merge.
All right.
I mean, I know they did that. I know they did that in Gaston City. Merged and became one big high school, and they've done that at James Clemens, and they did that at Dothan, of course.
Mm-hmm. Northview and Dothan.
And Dothan High merged. I mean, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
I'd be interested if it ever happened. I can't imagine Pike County and Charles Henderson players being on the same team.
No, I don't think they would do it that way.
I don't think it'd be that.
No, the school system, it would be one school system, but you'd still have the same high schools you have. But it'd be, so you would have one superintendent, in charge of Pike County High School and Charles Henderson High School.
All right, Mike, let's put it in this perspective. Let's change gears for a little bit. All right, right now both Pike County schools are on hold going to school. Charles Henderson has played about 15 basketball games. Pike County has played 3. Goshen has played 2. Is baseball season going to happen? Well, Pike Liberal Arts, they probably play 12, 14. So if I'm a kid at Goshen or Pike County, I'm not getting to play. Where can I play close by?
Yeah, that's a good
Can I
point.
go to Crenshaw County and play somewhere? Can I go where in Troy to play?
Yeah, that's right.
I look at it like that from Goshen and Pike County
They're
standpoint.
denying these kids extracurricular
but
opportunities.
And
And
this-
if they think they're saving their life, they're crazy. I mean, if you play, I mean, you've now had 5 months of high school athletics with nothing happening to any of these kids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why couldn't Pike County High School and Goshen play 10 or 12 basketball games by now? I don't get it.
Well, originally they were going to play 12, 6 region, 6 non-region. But I'm not questioning Dr. Bazell and that school system making their decision based on the safety of the kids.
That's right.
Troy City,
there is no risk to the safety
their
of the
kids are playing. There might have been a hiccup with COVID here and there because the girls have played 9 games. I think the boys have played like 15. So Pike County,
Pike County and Goshen didn't play as many football games. They cut
they
back.
only played region games, and
Well, maybe this is just an anomaly. Hopefully by next, it's not going to be by baseball season. It's not going to be by the rest of maybe by next football season, things will be back to normal. But I think we're looking for the status quo through the rest of basketball season, baseball, softball, because, I mean, everybody's counting on the vaccine, but there won't be nearly enough people to have received the vaccine until, maybe June at the earliest.
they've released some of those COVID vaccines, allowed more to enter the system, predicting and hoping that there will not be a shortage of production later on. So there's not enough in reserve to give everybody that's had one there. So they're giving them out, thinking that all these companies that are producing them.
I was looking in the news last night. There were several different pharmacies and different hospitals advertising
Yeah.
that started
Yeah.
getting the vaccine next week.
I want to make it clear. I'm not questioning the superintendent, those people in Pike County schools or Troy City or anybody, it's just a fact that it's a mess. Now it's doing the same thing it did this time last year. And
I'll tell you what,
hate it
if
for the
I was
kids.
a high school kid, a junior and senior, and I got one time to play sports in my life, and you take it away, I'm not going to play in college, sir. I'm not going to play in pros. This is my one little shot to have these memories. I wouldn't be happy about it. I mean, and if you could persuade me that, well, son, we're not letting you play because we're afraid that you'll die if we let you play. I said, well, I'm going to school. All these other millions of players have been practicing and playing, and they haven't died. That would be Bill Rice, independent thinker, critical thinker, engaging in a debate with people. And I guess we're not supposed to do that.
Well, Major League Baseball, they're in a decision as to whether or not to play 162 games, and if they're going to play a doubleheader, play 7 innings the first, 7 innings the second. But maybe 162 games is too much. Bring it down to 120.
And extra innings last year in baseball, didn't they automatically start a guy on second base? I believe that's what they did.
That's what they do in some softball tournaments.
No, they actually did that in Major League Baseball last year.
Yeah.
I think when games went to extra innings, they automatically put a guy on second base to start that inning.
I can't imagine how much money these Major League Baseball is losing.
Well, high school sports, they're not having fans in the stadium. That's how you pay for reconditioning of helmets, and you got to buy catastrophic insurance for your kids in sports, cheerleadings, and all that kind of stuff, and just the opportunity to play softball, tennis, swimming, baseball,
college
track.
football. I mean, I still haven't heard this. Troy was going to play the University of Tennessee and get about $1 million payday from playing Tennessee. Gone. I still haven't heard if Troy's got some contractual recourse to recoup that money. Probably not. It was probably considered an act of God and voided it, but that's a bit for a program like Troy to lose that $1 million.
Well, in 2021, the Coastal Carolina, their biggest school that they play will be Kansas. Louisiana is going to open up at Texas. All right, Georgia Southern is playing Arkansas and BYU away. Okay, Troy is playing South Carolina away. Appalachian State is playing Miami away. Arkansas State is playing Washington and Tulsa. South Alabama is playing Tennessee away. Texas State is playing Baylor. Louisiana Monroe, listen to this, they're playing Kentucky and LSU and Liberty. But LSU and Kentucky away. And Georgia State is playing Army, North Carolina, and Auburn.
Wow.
All of next year. So,
I was thinking about these Division II and 1AA programs that are supposed to play a spring schedule. Are those spring schedules still going to happen?
as far as I know,
Those are coming up like within a month.
And you think that's good. I forgot about that too, Michael. So a lot of
Like
programs
Faulkner,
were supposed to do
Huntington?
that. Yeah. I think the Alabama State. Yeah.
Yeah, Brock Snyder from Goshen, I think, has a shot to be the starting quarterback at Faulkner State, and they're supposed to play a spring schedule.
That's good, I guess, for the kids, and I enjoy keeping up with it. But then you got to turn around. You play a spring schedule, and then you got to turn around and get ready for a fall schedule again. That's a quick turnaround.
I don't know how many games we're talking. Some schools only played like 4 games this past fall.
Well, didn't North Dakota State play 1 game? The big powerhouse in 1AA?
And that quarterback is projected to go in the first round. He's like 6'4". He's a monster.
Yeah, I watched him play.
He's projected to go in the top, be one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks picked.
It's amazing to me.
If you were holding a clipboard and you were a 3rd string, 4th string quarterback at a Power 5 school right now, and never got a chance to play, and you knew you didn't want to play football next year. I wonder if you could just go to AA or Division II and have some fun and play 7 or 8 games and end your career that way. I wonder if they would allow that.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean, good point. A lot of players that were, kind of third or fourth team at a Division I program should be able to have a chance to be a starter at a Division II program. Well, there's a lot of unknowns, interesting times we've lived in. We talk about some of these topics, but I bet we haven't scratched the surface. People like Johnny Williams who really know I'm talking about the long-term trends. I kind of think that 5 years from now, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of programs that have football programs have discontinued their football program or they've gone down a classification. The finances are just, eventually, what they always say, follow the money. Eventually, it comes down to money, and I just think programs are bleeding money, and there's not a lot of prospects that they're going to get a huge revenue boost in the future. Like attendance at football games, anybody think that more people are going to start paying to go to football games? These TV contracts that they get from ESPN and CBS, do we think they're going to get bigger and bigger? I don't think so. I think they might get smaller. So the days of the assistant coach making $2 million, I don't know how you can sustain that, but we'll see. Maybe they can.
I read an article one day. You could see all the state salaries, and even at the Sun Belt level, which is incredible to think about, that every single assistant coach, position coach, makes over $100,000 a year. And that's just at Troy.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, yeah, for coaching at a Sun Belt school at Troy University. And I know when Tony left to take the West Virginia job, with Neil Brown, he was making $350,000 as a defense coordinator at Troy. He ended up making $650,000 at West Virginia, but for Troy, to pay a defense coordinator $350,000 isn't bad.
When I Googled Corey Dennis at Ohio State, and it's public record, his salary this year, $300,000.
28 years old.
As the quarterback's coach at Ohio State, $300,000.
Well, Zachary Etheridge just got the defensive back coaching job at Auburn. I think, how old is Zach?
He's probably 30, 32.
Well, he's going to be making that much money.
Well, he played for the national. He was a team captain, one of the team captains in 2010.
He was 2010, so yeah, that would have been 10-year anniversary. So he's got to be
32.
32.
32, yeah.
Who else do we?
I know
Ansley from Tallahassee, that was a great player at Troy. He's the defensive.
He makes $1 million a year.
He is a millionaire, I don't know if you make $1 million, that makes you $1 million. But he's made big salaries he's been a big-time Division I coach for about 6 years. I'm sure he's made some investments and squirreled some away. He probably is a millionaire, technically a millionaire.
I bought $30 a ticket to the Mega Million or the Powerball. My brain's not working yesterday, so that's $750 million if I win. So that'd be nice.
Well, I'm pulling for you. And remember who your buddy, when you win it, remember who your buddies are.
I would imagine a lot of people will be going to Georgia and Florida because that's pretty high. $750 million.
That's how they get. Don't get me started on the lottery. It's a scam run by the government. It's the numbers racket. The mafia used to do it, and it was illegal. And now the government does it, and they run commercials all the time to get you to do it. And the mafia paid you a lot. Your chances of winning with the mafia numbers racket were infinitely greater than the odds you'll win the government lotto.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not.
The great Mike Amos played a scratch off about 2 months ago, won $500.
Well, I play it too. As they say, you can't win unless you have a ticket.
The Miami Herald. Go ahead. I was going to talk about Tua. There's a report from the Miami Herald. There's a article written that 3 teammates are grumbling that they don't feel like Tua's the right man. And there's a rumor of Tua being traded to the Texans. That the Dolphins will get Deshaun Watson, and then the Texans are going to turn around and draft the quarterback out of BYU. But with that, James Harden, don't get me started about NBA. He pouted and wasn't playing. Now he's going to get to play with his old buddy Kevin Durant. He did the same thing with Golden State. He didn't like what was going on. Deshaun Watson didn't like that he didn't have any say so
What
and
did I
hiring
say?
of the general manager and the head coach.
They're not going to trade Tua to the Texans?
That's rumor. That's rumors. Trade talks. There's no telling what's going to happen between now and then.
I wonder what Dolphin offensive players are saying that. The Dolphins have no really skilled offensive players. I probably watched 7 or 8 Dolphins games this year, and there's no way their talent even equaled Alabama.
Yep, they don't.
The kind of receivers they had, and they had running backs that were both running backs were from Washington. Played for Peterson there, but I can't believe they'd say that about Tua. I watched him enough in games. I mean, he went 6-3 as a starter.
Yeah, they finished 10-6, almost made the playoffs, but
yeah, I'm with
grumble.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. But I disagree with those players. I think you give Tua give him a whole year. He had a devastating injury. It's amazing he came back and played this year, but his second year after that injury is going to be light and dark comparison.
And I think they got like 2 picks in the top 15, and some of the, they're looking at drafting Smith and getting Harris as the running back. So, you got 2 top 10 picks or top 15 picks, you can really improve things a lot.
Well, how many players do you think from Alabama will end up going in the first round? You think they really could have 6 or 7, or will?
Could be.
I mean, Waddle's a lock. Smith's a lock. I'd say probably Leatherwood's a lock.
Surtain.
Surtain's a lock.
It sounds like Barmore's a lock now.
Yeah, Barmore's probably a lock now. Mac Jones, I think, will go late first.
That's 6.
Najee Harris ought to go first.
Yeah, I think he would.
Running backs just don't, people get backs later. I mean, Derrick Henry won the Heisman, didn't go to the second round. Najee's so great out of the backfield, receiving as well. I would think he would have to go in the first round, but I don't know for sure.
He'll sell tickets too. They look at that too. He's now a star.
Waddle.
That's 7 that you named.
I said Waddle.
Yeah, and I would say outside chance Landon Dickerson. He had that.
I don't know. Blowing out his knee. I don't know if they would do it now.
Yeah.
Might maybe go second or third.
But maybe as many as 7. Let's say we're off. That's 6. What's the record for first round players? Did LSU set it last year?
I want to say LSU. Alabama, I think, has had 5. Maybe that's the most they've had, or 4. Maybe 5. So they've had 4 several times. I want to say LSU had 6. Maybe.
I think Alabama had 4.
Sure.
4 last year.
Did Miami have 6 one year?
I've always thought that Miami had the record for, I think it was 6. So if Alabama could get 7 or 6, that would be another record. And I think the recruiting class Saban had in 2017, you could end up with at least 8 first-round picks in one recruiting class. Think about that. 8, maybe more. It might end up being more, but at least 8 from one signing class. You can only sign 25. And Alabama might have signed 24 that year. So a third of your prospects you signed ended up not just being drafted, but being drafted in the first round. There are football programs that go decades without having one of their players drafted in the first round. And Alabama, with one recruiting class, is going to have 8.
Well, they're saying 65 Brown might go first round late too. He's the guard. He had a great career.
Well, there you go. That's that. If you count Landon Dickerson and Brown, you might get up to 8. It's phenomenal.
That's one thing about Troy's program that's really amazing. Like when Neil Brown won 11 games, 10 games, 10 games, I don't think they had anybody drafted off those teams. Troy, I can't remember the last time they've had a guy even drafted. That's one thing about Blakeney. When Blakeney was there, and Shaughnessy was the not offensive line coach, but strength coach, Troy had a guy getting drafted every year. And Troy, that's one thing that we'll tell you about that program as far as, they've had some good college players, but really nobody that was good enough to draft.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL players are still in the NFL or have been up there for several years.
Those are all Blakeney guys. Mario Addison and Steve
Yeah, that's the way I look at classes. And when I look at a roster for the next season, like I'm looking at Alabama now, the thing I look at is, can I project any of these guys as NFL players, and how high will they be drafted? That's kind of the metric that you use. And not all of these 5 stars pan out, but this class of 2017 I just referenced, they won a national championship as freshmen, and a lot of those guys contributed as a freshman, one of them being Devontae Smith, Tua Tagovailoa. Then they win a national championship as seniors in 2020. Well, in 2018, they played for a national championship. And then in 2019, they probably would have played for a national championship again if Tua doesn't get hurt and Alabama gets past Auburn.
Well, look at the LSU game.
So they won 2 national championships, played in 3 national championships, had a chance to play for 4.
Yeah, LSU, beat us by 5, 46, 41 or something like that. Tua, remember, was going in to score and drop the ball. That'd been 7-0. That changes a lot of things. But
yeah, that team was kind of dismissed, but that was a really good team that had some bad luck. But that injury luck is part of football, so I mean it happens to every team.
And then Mac Jones threw 2 pick sixes against Auburn, even though he played great throughout the game, and then they missed a 30-yard field goal that might have put it in overtime. The way Alabama's defense playing Auburn play with a
what about that?
Field goal range to kick the ball.
That fluke play, that 100-yard interception return, he threw it, and it was resting on Najee's back, and the guy bounced off, and he got it. And that one play, and if they had won that game, would they have made the playoffs last year?
You know, they should have. And they were probably the only team that had a chance to beat LSU. But, you know, I was watching those talking heads at ESPN and reading the tea leaves. They did not want Alabama, and they were lobbying against them and saying it was never even talking about. So I think even if Alabama had beaten Auburn, it's no sure thing they would have made the playoffs.
Well, if they want to
have y'all seen Auburn? I mean, all these hires. They hired Tracy Rocker back yesterday. Where is all this money coming from?
Auburn did. Whew.
Tracy Rocker that coached at Troy.
Was at Troy.
Coming back to be their defensive line coach. I mean,
they're loading them up.
Been at Auburn before.
All in. The term I like that Sarkisian has at Texas, all gas, no brakes.
Let's talk about Tracy Rocker. He was a great college player. I mean, I think he won the Outland or won these big national awards. Fantastic defensive lineman, but he didn't play long in the NFL. I mean, maybe 2 years or something. Well, then he becomes a coach, and he's been a coach now for probably 20 years. He started, I think, at Troy. But in his career, he has made a lot more money coaching college football as a position coach than most people make in their careers as an NFL player.
He's 54 years old.
I'd say he was at Troy under Blaney for at least 3 years. I remember talking to him. I was working in the athletic department then. He was a nice guy. Of course, his son is the #1 prospect in baseball and will probably sign for, God knows, $20 million or something. If anybody's watched him pitch at Vanderbilt, he's incredible.
His son is a pitcher at Vanderbilt?
Oh, he's the star pitcher.
He's the guy.
The national championship.
He's the guy.
Did Vanderbilt win a national championship again last year?
Yeah.
He struck out like 20 guys in a regional before they made it to the World Series.
Awesome.
Here's Rocker's coaching resume. Auburn High School, West Alabama, Troy State, Cincinnati, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Auburn, Tennessee Titans, Georgia, Tennessee again, or University of Tennessee, South Carolina, and now at Auburn as the defensive line coach.
I think that's about 12 coaching stops in 20 years. Coaches, they move more than people in the military.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to his brother, David Rocker. He was another good player at Auburn.
He really was. I mean, that's what Pat Dye made his legend on. Great defensive lineman. And I think Pat Dye was an old defensive lineman himself. I think he coached linebackers at Alabama, but he knew how to develop defensive linemen.
I know I got on late. Do you take a break?
Oh, yeah, thank you. We probably do. Steve, if you're listening, it's time to take a commercial break, and please notice all the sponsors that are on the screen over my head and support these great local businesses that support us. And we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Our history is woven with the stories of those we serve. At Max, we've been a good community partner for 65 years. Max is dedicated to providing dependable financial services and to supporting our communities. We volunteer our time and share our resources. As a credit union, we've returned millions of dollars back to our members, local nonprofits, and small businesses. Max is honored to be a part of your story. We look forward to serving you for years to come.
Hi, Sandy. I'm right here. Come on in.
Eddie, I'm right here. Oh, Miss Mary, I'm right here. I'm right here.
Since 1969, we've been right here because at Troy Regional Medical Center, we take these words to heart.
I'm right here. Thank you.
Remarkable people, remarkable care.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
At the Piggly Wiggly, we proudly support our local farmers and bring you the best they have to offer, all at cost plus 10%. When you shop local, you reinvest in your community. Remember, buy local, shop local. Piggly Wiggly, local since forever.
On the show, if he wants to talk about it, but I mean...
We're back live.
We're back on the air.
I've been talking to him about it for a while.
We're back on the air. That was we all raced to the coffee maker.
Oh, me.
I want to say hello to Jason Gregory this morning from Mayor Dodge Project Chief, Ram. Of course, Big Mike got an unbelievable Ram truck. Forrest Lee's actually driven the truck down to a football game.
It's nice. Whew.
Tell everybody about driving that Ram truck, Forrest.
Well, I was trying to find the gear shift. There's not one. It's a little toggle switch. Not a toggle switch, but it's a little...
Oh, yeah.
You go to park, neutral, drive, and... but you got to probably sit in it for an hour to figure out what everything means, what everything does.
You got to read the owner's manual.
But it is smooth. It's like you're on air. I felt like an airplane pilot. and the,
Is it as smooth as Tennessee whiskey?
well, probably.
George Jones song?
Who is that sings that? Smooth as Tennessee whiskey. What's that? Chris Stapleton. Oh, yeah.
It's an old George Jones.
Oh, is it? Old George. Who's going to fill those shoes?
I want to mention everybody go out to Sister's Restaurant as well today. Say hello to Pat and Geraldine. Of course, I would love to do that as well, but I miss Sister's greatly. That's one thing that does not have is a great meat-free restaurant. I don't get the vegetables and all the great food that you can get in Troy, Alabama. Of course, I want to say hello to our friend Will Matthews Law Firm. Will's a big caller of the show, and of course, he played golf at Vanderbilt, kind of our golf expert, played at every golf course in the country, played golf with Bear Bryant 25 to 35 times. So say hello to Will this morning as well.
And he's hit 15 hole-in-ones in his life. Yeah. I mean, he's got some amazing. His cousin is one of the best players on the senior tour. He said when he was in college, he beat Jerry Pate in a head-to-head match when he was a college golfer at Vanderbilt when Pate was a college golfer at Alabama. So Will's just got some great stories.
Well, talking about sponsors, Bird's Drugs, whew, their bacon is the best. And
it is the best.
Lately, I've been getting order bacon, one patty sausage, sliced tomatoes, dry toast, just a little bit of mayonnaise, and a sun drop. And,
you like those sun drops.
I do. And but it's just something about Bird's Drugs bacon that is unbelievable.
You know what I've discovered or rediscovered at Bird Drugs is their dollar shelves. If you go over and walk back to see Joe or Melanie at the pharmacy, and then over your left there's a shelf where everything on those shelves is $1. And that's some good things that you're going to need. Lately, I've been getting all my shaving cream from the dollar shelf.
Yeah. At Troy Bank and Trust, I've been with them since I was about 17 years old. God, I love Troy Bank and Trust. They're a hometown bank. Yeah, I just can't say enough about Troy Bank and Trust. And one thing.
Who is the distributor of Sundrop? Is that Buffalo Rock?
Well, it comes out of Luverne, Alabama, Crenshaw County, the friendliest city in the South, I guess.
Luverne is the friendliest city.
That is Buffalo Rock, then.
Yeah, that's where I think it's distributed around here. But you can buy one in Montgomery. It doesn't taste as good as the one down here.
I'll be damned, really.
Yeah.
You know who used to love sun drops was my grandmother, Lucy Rice. And I think she got some of them from my grandfather, Bob Rice, who worked for the highway department, was one of the bosses out there. And they must have had them at the highway department. But whenever I went to grandmother's, we had sun drops.
9-ounce bottle, and it'd have a little bit of pulp in it. But what I do is my favorite part is to get a fresh lime, cut it in half, slice it a couple more times, squeeze it on top of the ice, then pour that sun drop on top. Man, it gives you a little bit more kick. Lemon works, but not as good as a lime.
Yeah. But, I've got a sun drop in my house right now. I got a Piggly Wiggly, who's one of our sponsors. You know how much a 2-liter container of sun drop cost me?
99 cents.
$1.09.
$1.09.
I mean, you go to a fast food restaurant and you get a medium soda, it's going to be more than $1.09. You can get a 2-liter for $1.09. Can't pass it up. Same way with Coca-Cola. When they have that $1.09 special, I don't just buy one; I buy 3.
I'm trying to figure out.
But there's Horn Beverage.
I like a Grape-A-Co. Grape-A-Co is still one of my favorites.
Grape-A-Co. That gives me a little bit of heartburn for some reason. Grape-A-Co does. Or
Well,
New
soon
Grape.
I'm gonna have to go on my program, and I'm gonna have to eliminate all my favorite soft drinks.
What's your favorite, a Mr. Pibb or a Dr. Pepper?
I like them both, but Dr. Pepper.
I prefer Dr. Pepper.
A Diet Dr. Pepper is the best diet drink I've ever had.
What do y'all think about the Fansville Dr. Pepper commercials compared to I like the ones before when they had that crazy guy that was selling the Dr. Peppers in the stands.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh yeah, I can't remember his name. He was an actor.
Those were really funny. But the one Fansville commercial, I gotta say this, I don't like it. There's bad flaws in it. It's the one where they're watching the big game for State U. Everybody in that town pulls for this team. They're supposedly the greatest fans in the world, biggest fans. And the field goal kicker has a field goal to win the game, and the guy sitting on the couch jinxes him, right? He says, oh, it's automatic. He won't miss it. So the guy kicks it, and he misses it, and they lose the game. And they send him to trial for jinxing the team. Watch that commercial closely the next time you see it. Those people aren't hanging on the edge of their seat with that field goal. There's 2 people right behind him, a guy and a girl, that are having small talk about, how's work going after that guy misses it. And there's 2 guys on the side, and they're just socializing. The guy misses the kick, and they don't even jump up and down, notice it. If I was the director or writer of that commercial, I would have done things differently. There, I'm glad that I finally got that.
Forrest, did you go over all the records Alabama's team had this year?
Yeah, we went over the results of who won. I think I still have that. You want to announce it again?
No, I'm talking the team records for Alabama.
Like offense and scoring margin and.
Like yards.
No.
Alabama averaged 7.8 yards per game. Alabama averaged 541. Did y'all go over all that?
No, we did not.
Michael, I want to hear your comments on this. It's like somebody said, about 18 hours after Alabama wins that national championship, what's the narrative in the nation? boring. Alabama's too good. What do we do to improve it?
We got to change the playoffs.
So it's no congratulations, Alabama, amazing season, amazing 12-year run. This is broken. We got to stop Alabama.
I hate the SEC.
Well, let's let the smoke clear. Top recruiting teams in the country again: Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, Georgia, Notre Dame, Clemson. Those 6 are the top 6. Those 6 are going to be in the mix.
That's their argument.
Next year, Texas A&M, those are the 7 that's going to be in the mix.
There's fatigue, Bama fatigue, but then there's also fatigue from the same 3 or 4 or 5 teams being up there. I heard the comments.
You got to have upsets too. Cincinnati pretty much had the game won against Georgia, but didn't get a first down, and Georgia came back and kicked a 54-yard field goal and beat them. But that was a really good Cincinnati team last year. I think anybody that watched the bowl game knows that. But until Central Florida beat Auburn a few years ago, but it doesn't happen as much as people make it out to be that a non-Power 5 will beat a Power 5 on a New Year's Day bowl game.
I almost called in Feinbaum's show yesterday when I was in the line getting Maggie at school, and they were talking about the ratings for the national championship game were way down at 19 million viewers, which was 6 or 7 million less than last year, which is surprising. And everybody's talking about what do they got to do to change it, and of course the consensus is what? Expand the playoffs, make it 8 teams, if not 16. But my question was, okay, what would have happened this year if you expanded the playoffs to 8 teams, let in Coastal Carolina, let in Cincinnati, Texas A&M, Georgia. Everybody's happy, all these other teams get a chance. Do you think if you would have done that more people would have somehow turned into the national championship game? No, you would have had the exact same, those teams would have got beat in the first game. It still would have been Alabama and Ohio State. So, their solution and what they're advocating for, I don't think it's going to give them the result they think it will.
All right, here's Cincinnati's schedule next year. Miami of Ohio, Murray State, Indiana. They do play Notre Dame.
No, that's awesome.
Well, that's not two bad games there, Indiana and Notre Dame.
All right, SMU, Temple, Tulsa.
Those are all conference games.
Yep, UCF, East Carolina, Navy, Tulane, and the University of South Florida. So they've added Notre Dame.
Yeah. If they run the table next year, they'll be in the playoffs probably. They will have beaten Notre Dame, UCF, which has a good image now, Indiana, which is a Big Ten school,
Navy, SMU.
So if they would have had this schedule this year and had run the table, they would have. Well, they obviously would have been in because Notre Dame got in and they would have beat Notre Dame.
Did their defensive coordinator go to Notre Dame?
Freeman. Yeah. Notre Dame.
So,
I think the big issue is that you've just what I predicted 10 years ago. The emphasis is now on playoffs, national championship. So all the other teams are kind of lost. If you're not in the running for the national championship, and really by about week 8, you know who those 4 teams are going to be, you feel like an afterthought. The bowls are being de-emphasized and diminished dramatically compared to history. And, conference championships aren't as big a deal. So, all these people that were advocating for the playoffs, they've got it. And you still got TV ratings that don't meet expectations.
Well, in the West, you got Alabama and A&M will be one of the reps. Maybe LSU. I don't even know if they'll be eligible. Then on the East, you're going to have Florida or Georgia. Maybe Auburn, but
no, Auburn's in the West.
You're right. So Florida or Georgia. Well, they were talking it's going to be possibly Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson. Well, who's going to be number 4? That's the question every year.
That's the point they're making is it's the same 3 teams, and all you're really competing for is who's going to be in spot number 4. I get it. I mean, they're right.
I mean, Oklahoma is going to be really good next year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the Pac-12, I mean, Slovis is back at USC. I mean, if anybody watched Oregon play Iowa State, Iowa State's got Purdy back at quarterback, several other guys back. I mean,
they're going to be a force.
Going to be really good next year. I don't know about Miami. Miami's getting a lot of transfers. I don't know if Derek King will be back from his knee injury the way he played this year, but they've got some pretty good players. But I don't know. Until you start seeing Florida State get back, the Miami's get back. I mean, Penn State was down tremendously this year. Michigan's been awful.
Texas may get there quicker than what we think.
Yeah, Texas will be there, I think, in a couple of years. Pac-12, though, I mean, they've just been really, really down.
And, Mike, next year, Alabama, not this upcoming year, but in 2022, on the 10th day of September, Alabama travels to Austin to play Texas.
Yeah.
So that may be.
What does Alabama do at quarterback? You know, you got Paul Tyson, Bear Bryant's great-great-grandson, and then you got Bryce Young. But, you know, you got this transfer portal where you could definitely bring in a guy that was a starter somewhere to try to push Bryce Young. I mean, I think that's what Alabama tries to do. I don't know if you're 100% in with Bryce Young, but, I mean, I think he'll definitely probably be the starter. And I think he's going to be a great player eventually, but he's just so young. Would you bring in a safety net at quarterback?
Well, it's thin, like you said, to just have two. That's scary. Tyson hadn't taken the snap yet. I actually think he'll end up being pretty good. I think he's like Mac Jones. It's just going to take him 3 or 4 or 5 years to mature. But yeah, I guess you could do that. But I've got no concerns whatsoever about Bryce Young. I watched him a lot in high school, and I watched him enough this year to think that not only is he going to be good, he's going to be very good. And I don't, what would he think if you brought in somebody to compete for his job? You talk about transferring, that might rub him the wrong way. So I would.
I'm more talking about like a guy that's kind of like a senior, you know, a guy that maybe played at a, you know, not a Power 5 but a non-Power 5, just a guy who wants to maybe win a national championship, just as security blanket. I mean, surely he thinks he can beat that guy out, I would imagine.
Well, it's like that. Who was the guy that's starting in the NFL and was a star at Washington State? Alabama was going to bring him in to do just that, to be a third-string quarterback.
That's where the guy from Tennessee is going to Washington State. The quarterback Guantanamo, whatever his name is, he's transferring to Washington State to play football.
Hold on. Good morning. Who is this?
Hey, Mr.
Will, sorry we couldn't take your call yesterday. We had all our lines full. What's going on? Tell us what you thought about the Alabama-Ohio State game.
It was just like I thought it would be. I don't know if y'all kept up with what we predicted, but I think mine was pretty close.
You were. I thought you called for over and said Alabama would have no.
It barely went over though, Will. 76 points.
But you know, at one point though, it should have gone over a ton. But I think Alabama kind of let the air out of the ball there toward the end.
And Ohio State could have had some late scores.
Two touchdowns taken back from Ohio State. It should have been 31 points probably.
Right.
But Will wasn't in context. Just wasn't that let's appreciate this for a couple of days. Wasn't that an amazing Alabama team and a fun Alabama team to watch?
Well, you'll never see anything like it again because they'll never play 10 SEC games in the regular season ever again.
Yep.
And, you know, Saban's been asking for 9. I think they ought to play 10 and quit playing these games, you know, they're just a joke games. You know, everybody plays them.
I think that's going to happen. I think they'll definitely go to 9, and it's for economic reasons to help sell tickets, which they're worried about the plunge in attendance, and to make those TV contracts as big as possible by having attractive TV games. And the odd man out is going to be the Troys and the Memphises and the Southern Misses, if that happens.
Well, let me tell you, this is why I'm calling. How's Mike doing?
Michael, go ahead and give him a quick update.
Let's just say he's still in recovery. They have some issues as far as COVID, and Camille, my twin sister, works at UAB and has a big job, and we had him on the BIP list. We couldn't get him in the room because the doctor wanted to keep him on the same unit hall, and he was supposed to go to ICU after the surgery. He finished at like noon yesterday, but he stayed in recovery and is still in recovery because they can't put him in a room. But as far as I know, other than him saying it was a nightmare and one of the worst experiences he's ever had in his life,
he's fine besides that. Right. I think the surgery went well. They're optimistic about the results of the surgery.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like everything's going to be fine. I feel like he'll hopefully be in better spirits today. But unfortunately, nobody was allowed to see him until around 10:30 last night. So he went in at 5 in the morning, and they never did put him in a room. So he went the whole day without seeing anybody, and only had talked on the phone a couple of times. They handed him a phone to let him talk. So he's got a long ways to go, but I think hopefully today his spirits will be better, and he's got a few more procedures, one tomorrow, I think, for sure, maybe something today. So it's I just told everybody when we started the show that, to do any kind of surgery, especially at UAB Medical Center, with all the COVID situations going on, it's just tough. You might want to delay it if you possibly can.
Right.
Yeah, I can imagine. Only imagine, what's going on at UAB Medical Center now, because all the serious COVID cases, they're funneled into the UAB and the prestige hospitals in the big cities. So they're all taxed severely right now.
Yeah, he said that he'll have plenty to talk about this when he gets back on the show one day. So I'm sure we'll have plenty of stories to hear.
Yeah.
What else? What do you think about the impeachment of Donald Trump, Will?
They won't let up. You think they just let him go on out, but they just want to make it just as hard as they can on him. The Senate will never convict him. They need 67 votes in the Senate. They'll never get that. So it's just a waste of time, waste of money.
Then the Senate's not even in session, so even.
Well, they'll bring him in next week, but
they just don't want him to be able to run again. That's the whole issue. If they want
that's the whole thing. They don't want, and there are some Republicans that don't want him to run again. I'm sure Ted Cruz doesn't want him to run again.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I'm sure Pence and everybody. I mean, everybody that wants to run for president. Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors. I've heard rumors in Florida, living great, that Trump and DeSantis would run together on 2024 campaign.
Hey, I got to run. I got a call coming. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will.
Ooh, that's it. I like DeSantis. That would be quite a ticket there. Or DeSantis could run on his own. Donald.
DeSantis is a guy that basically is a Trump disciple, I guess is the word you'd say. He doesn't. It's basically his way or the highway. As a resident of Florida, living down there, he's allowed everything to stay open, and that's kind of where everybody gets away and throws their mask on the ground and goes to restaurants that are still 100% occupancy, and you still have live music at bars and restaurants. And I mean, it's kind of a fairy tale world is what I always tell my wife. We don't live in reality, we live in Grace Beach.
Yeah, I want to go down there though. I mean, just for a little change of pace. Disney World, they're open. Disneyland in California is not open. I mean, and DeSantis says that Disney World could have more people there, but that's Disney's decision. I think they've got it at 50% or something, limited occupancy, but it is open. Might be a perfect time to go to Disney World, so you don't have all the millions of crowds.
I've got a buddy that's been there 5 times during COVID. I mean, he has a plane he owns and flies down there, but he says the lines are, not bad. And all you got to do is wear your mask, and he said it's the same old Disney you'll always see.
Well, I promised my kids that I would take them, so maybe I can get a tax refund and a stimulus check. Might be a good time to hit the road, Jack.
Don't you come back no more, no more.
They say every time you go to Disney, especially if you stay in the resort and one of the nicer hotels or just in the resort period, if you got a family, you're going to spend about $8 to $10 grand every time you go.
Oh, I wasn't budgeting that much. Yeah, so I was thinking maybe 4 or 5, but I need a bigger stimulus check and a bigger refund.
I guess it depends on where you stay.
Yeah. Well, at Troy University basketball, the men travel to Georgia Southern. They play Friday and Saturday, and the women will host Georgia Southern. The first game will be tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And, I kind of looked ahead to what I need to do is go to Troy University and get all the schedules for softball and baseball and have it on the set so we'll know when they play and all that. But, the softball team is expected to do real well, and we actually host the Sun Belt tournament this year. And Auburn will come to town. They're scheduled to come to town, I think, March the 10th, but Troy will open up play with it's called the Trojan Classic, February the 12th through the 14th. That's just around the corner.
It is, yeah.
Then the next weekend, they're going to have the Troy Invitational. Then they will also play at Tuscaloosa in their Invitational and Auburn in their Invitational. Wow. So softball's right around the corner, and baseball, they're fixing to throw the first pitch. I don't have that schedule in front of me, but it's going to be sometime in February. It's going to be pretty quick.
You have more games with state rivals than you did in the past because of COVID. Travel's a big issue, so it would seem to be that Troy would get more games with the Alabamas and Auburns than they would in previous years.
And usually during the season on Wednesday nights, they'll either travel to somewhere and play a quick game before the big series.
On the weekend.
Play Jack State, UAB, Stanford.
You can have a great schedule in baseball and softball just playing state schools.
Yeah. Michael, did you get a chance to hear Paul Feinbaum? I couldn't stay. I was working on somebody's yard yesterday, but the Tennessee issue is up in the air. But they've hired Kevin Steele as a defensive specialist, and but they got players still transferring out. And
I've read they've had 10 that have transferred. Maybe I'm wrong on that number, but some high number that have transferred out in the last couple of weeks. Wow.
Yeah, they got a bunch of the guys that were supposed to sign early signing period in December that are holding out until February, and a lot of people think they won't even sign with Tennessee. So a lot of those kids were out of Alabama. They recruited the state of Alabama.
Real well.
It's going to mention the Sun Belt basketball tournament has been moved out of New Orleans this year. This was before COVID, and it's going to be played in Pensacola, Florida.
Wow.
So you'll be able to watch the men and the girls play basketball in Pensacola if you want to for the conference tournament championship.
Talking about Troy basketball, I saw a neat story on Trojan.com this weekend or the other day. It's the 29th anniversary. January 12th was the 29th anniversary of the game where Troy scored 258 points against DeVry. I was there too. I was the sports editor of the Messenger, so I had to document it. But 250.
The problem is the scoreboard couldn't keep up with the score, so you had to kind of know what was going on.
They did not have a 2. Yeah, so it went back to, I think at the end of the game it said 58.
Who was the official scorekeeper for Troy University that had to keep the stat books? That he had the roughest job.
Was it Angie?
I'm not sure.
The sports information, they ran a Kevin.
Tom Angie was sports information director.
Yeah, okay. And they ran a Kevin Skarbinski column on Trojan.com about it, and in Kevin's column he said that it took Troy's SID staff about 3 hours to compile the full box score. But I remember it. It was Troy hit 51 3-pointers, if you can believe it. Hit 51, tried 109. So they hit about 50% of their three-pointers. Troy had 28 dunks. You do the math, 51 three-pointers is 153 points on just three-pointers. 28 dunks is 56 points. So about 90% of those 258 points came from three-pointers or dunks. There were no...
I mean, you remember they're going in for layups, and they would pass it back out to shoot for three. I mean, literally, they had a layup and would pass it just to get a three-pointer.
That was such a big deal to that team because here's the backstory, the rest of the story.
Yeah.
The year before, they had got 182 or 187 against DeVry. And Troy was known for running and gunning, and that was the way they were branding in their program and setting themselves apart from everybody. And so they had the same players pretty much coming back the next year, and they rescheduled these guys. DeVry, which was an NAIA school from Atlanta, and they said that we're going to go for 200, not to embarrass DeVry, but for a very legit reason. Nobody had ever done it before. They wanted to make history. So DeVry shows up. DeVry only has 7 players to get off the bus. That's a good sign, maybe 8. And but Troy was treating that game like a national championship game. It was a Sunday afternoon. They were keyed up. It was like they were in their track stance. And when they had that first tip, they were flying. At first, they were tight. They were missing shots. But eventually, they found their rhythm. And if you remember that team, when they started scoring, it came in waves, buddy. I mean, when they started hitting those three-pointers, it was just contagious. And I think they had, in the first half, they had 135 points. So you said, oh, we got a pretty good chance of scoring 65 points in the second half. And some people besmirched it and said it was a publicity stunt and obnoxious that they would do this. But, my response, and I had to call them, and I said this, I said, you try to score 258 points or hit 51 three-pointers against air in 40 minutes.
Yeah. Scarbinsky is a Troy grad.
He sure is.
Yeah, Tim Faison from Charles Henderson was on that team. I think he scored like 12 or 14 points. Was there another Troy?
Troy had the two sharpshooters from Kentucky, Steve Hunt, Brian Simpson, and they could just light it up from outside. Then they had the greatest player probably in Troy history, Terry McCord.
McCord had
some tremendous scores.
McCord had 41 points. Simpson had 38 or 39. He lit it up, man, from three-point land. Hunt, he hit the shot that got us over 200, a three-pointer. I think 12 players scored, 10 or 11 were in double figures. Andy Davis, you remember him? He was the heart and soul of the team.
He was a great, triple-double guy.
He was a 6'3", 6'4" guard forward that was a great rebounder. He hit the first bucket of the game, and then he never took a shot the rest of the game. All he did was rebound and pass it to other people. So he finished with 2 points, but everybody else was in double figures.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive. I told Dad, I think almost since I was a kid. I'm not a kid. I was like, I don't know. What year was that, 94?
29 years less than 2020, so what's the 1991 maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I was in high school, I guess. But anyway, I remember it snowed that morning as well. It was a really cold day in Troy. It snowed the night before the game.
Well, Michael, will you get to see your daddy today, or will you be able to do that?
Yeah, I just found out through a text that Mom has finally seen him for the first time.
Good.
5 o'clock in the morning yesterday.
I'll let you.
And that I will try to hopefully be able to go by and see him.
Okay.
At some point today. So.
Well, thank you so much for still.
Hopefully I'll have a better report than I did this morning. Hopefully his spirits will be up, and I'm sure it was just a long day for him.
Well, we'll hold the fort, and we expect to have another update on Mike tomorrow, and it's end of the week Friday.
Okay.
So thank you for watching, and this show will be replayed at 1:30 this afternoon, and
Thank you for joining.
We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Bright and early. Have a good day.